All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Turquoise Skies Wednesday show. This is our Digging Deep show, and we've got a very special guest today. We've got Dayton Simmons, turquoise expert. Can't wait to get into it. We'll be right with you. All right. We'll give everyone a few minutes to get here. Welcome, Dayton.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Shep.
Yeah, it's going to be a good show. We're going to be talking about look at all this. Look, it's going to be a great show. We've been here talking, and we keep talking about things, and I keep stopping myself and saying, okay, stop, let's just save this for the show. We're going to just keep talking.
We are going to cover a lot of neat aspects of turquoise, the turquoise industry in general, mining, cabochons, jewelry, just run the whole gamut of turquoise as much as we can in the short time that we have here. We can talk for hours on this, but we'll limit it to an hour.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for coming.
My great pleasure.
Yeah,
Happy to be here. And thank you for asking me. Shep saw me on Facebook, the turquoise groups, and said, hey, you want to come talk about turquoise?
Yeah, you're in Santa Fe. You know, it was one of the repairs that you did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you had a picture side by side, and it was like, well, how do you do that? And I was following you after that, and you kept posting stones, and I realized where you were. And it was like,
I think
I messaged you on like 3 different platforms at the same time.
Making sure, yeah.
So anyway, let me give you a more formal introduction here. So Dayton moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico to become a turquoise trader in 1996.
96, yeah.
And he established his own business and continues to own his company, Silver Day Trading Company. Miners, mentors, and other teachers have provided Dayton with a very unique education, something that you can't find in a traditional school these days, which is turquoise. Turquoise.
I had amazing teachers ever since I was 12, when I first got started silversmithing, all the way through when I moved to Santa Fe and met turquoise mentors and miners and mineral dealers and silversmiths. I've just had a great array of teachers, and I'm blessed.
You started silversmithing when you were 12?
When I was 12, 1975.
No kidding. Wow, that's incredible. So he's currently very active in the industry, purveyor of gym grade turquoise. We're going to talk about that today. What is natural turquoise? He's an expert in jewelry repair, fine jewelry, Native American jewelry, American Indian jewelry, specifically antique repair.
Focus primarily on the vintage stuff because no one else does.
It's hard to find people that can do it, especially with some of the old lapidary techniques and some of the old stones. And when you're doing some of these repairs, the mainstream jewelry stores don't want to touch it.
No, most jewelers do not like repair because you can really mess things up along the way. Old lapidary, but also old soldering techniques, old fabrication techniques. You kind of have to get inside the head of the jewelers from the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, and it's not the same as today. And most jewelers just kind of go, no, but I enjoy it. So
yeah,
it works.
It's a blessing to have you here. I would love to learn more from you too, from my limited experience. I'm trying. Anyway, you are always doing talks at colleges. You've done some advising for the GIA.
Yeah.
And now we're very thankful to have you here.
Yeah.
So, hello everyone. I see everyone starting to pop in. Hi, Shelly.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of people that your name has come up. You're like a household name to all of our folks.
Yeah. Right.
You know what? The magic of Facebook and Instagram, because there's all these turquoise groups, and by posting on the various groups, my information goes out to thousands of people all across the country that I've never met. And it's neat.
Cool.
People find me, and that's how Shep found me. So it works.
That's how I found him. And, that's the beauty of the internet these days. You can reach out to anybody and get experience just by reaching out and saying hi. If you have any questions for Dayton, we're going to be answering questions today. So don't hesitate to ask.
Yes, please.
And if you don't have questions, I've got a whole bunch of them. So I'm going to be going through those. So we'll give everyone a few minutes to get here. Hello.
We're just going to kind of play it by ear. Shep and I don't have an agenda. We're just decided to let it kind of free flow. Questions there, questions here, things that I think of. A lot of good stuff to show you here too. This is all natural turquoise, which is one of the main things we'll be talking about today. The difference between natural turquoise and all the different types of treated turquoise. So
Hi, Sophia. Thanks for joining us. Great. Well, you're originally from Kansas?
Kansas City.
Okay. And you started silversmithing when you were 12, you just said.
Mhm.
Wow, what got
The
you
old
into that?
man across the street from me.
Really?
This is it's 1975. It's the height of the 70s turquoise craze. And in those days, there were like 30 Indian arts shops in Kansas City. It was
Yeah.
one maybe now. But everybody was silversmithing. And the old man across the street from me thought I needed something to do on a Saturday morning to stay out of trouble. And it's probably right. But started doing that. And as I was mentioning earlier, I saw solder go molten for the very first time, and I was hooked. And it's so funny because to this day, whenever I'm soldering and the solder goes molten, I get that same sensation as I did when I was 12 years old. And it just stuck with me. And then I got into the turquoise business through, met a friend of a friend, and he was a large importer of Chinese turquoise. I did the Tucson Gem Show with him. He basically said, okay, you got the job, how soon can you start? And I was not quite ready for that, but at the same time, why not? So I just jumped into it, and that was, as Shep said, in '96, and I'm still at it.
And
It's
you're in Santa Fe now.
Mhm.
Yep, that's right. So if you're in the Santa Fe area, can we send people to where you are? Or?
Just phone call, message, something to set up something, yeah.
You can find Dayton on Facebook. If you're in probably any of the good turquoise groups, you may see him be posting in there. So
And if you go to my profile, I think on Instagram as well, but on Facebook, I'm on my profile. It has all my contact information, the phone number, email,
There you go.
mailing address. So
great. So I had a question specifically about Santa Fe to get this started
Yes.
off. Because I've had people ask me this before, and I kind of have like an answer, but I would love what you think of this. So Santa Fe is known as a mecca for turquoise,
it's the hub.
the hub. And however, turquoise is mined from other states, Nevada and
Mhm.
Arizona,
Mhm.
and we get more turquoise coming out of those states. Why is it that Santa Fe is known as that hub? I've been told that mostly because of Spanish settlement, and Santa Fe was more of a capital. And no,
Nope.
That,
Not from my perspective. From my perspective, it's because it was at the end of the Santa Fe Trail, and it is where the Cerrillos turquoise was mined. 30 Cerrillos turquoise mines, which I have 2 claims, south of Santa Fe, 30 miles. Back in 1890 or so, when turquoise deposits were first being sought after in the American Southwest, mostly for the Tiffany Jewelry Company. Tiffany was looking for sources of turquoise. They'd been using Persian turquoise for a long time, and that was harder to get at that time. And the Cerrillos mines, the Tiffany mine in particular, which was not owned by Tiffany, but because Tiffany bought most of the turquoise coming out of it, it gets called the Tiffany mine.
okay.
It's right there at Santa Fe. So turquoise started coming from the American Southwest, going back up the Santa Fe Trail to New York, to Tiffany, where it got put into Victorian jewelry back in the day for Paris, New York, Chicago. That all sort of ended with Tiffany in I think it was '07, when the old man Tiffany died. He was the one that is into the turquoise. His son, I think it was David, but don't quote me, wasn't into the turquoise as much, and that's when Tiffany glass took off. So we know Tiffany more for that than we do for turquoise jewelry nowadays. But in 1890 to the early part of the 20th century, turquoise was coming out of Cerrillos, Silver City, and then near Tombstone. Those are the 3 main areas where turquoise was first commercially mined, and then went back up Santa Fe Trail. So Santa Fe, to me, back to your original question, is just the focal point of where everybody sought after. It was sought after, and that's where it started the trip back east.
Okay.
And it's continued to this day. But that's what I think.
Yeah. So what is the Turquoise Trail? When people say turquoise, is it the trail back to the east, or is that
No.
the trail to
The
Nevada?
Turquoise Trail is a marketing thing. It is the road, Highway 14. It's the back road from Santa Fe to Albuquerque, and from Santa Fe down to the little town of Cerrillos, and Madrid's part on that also, and it technically goes a little bit further south. But Highway 14 is the Turquoise Trail, and it's because the Cerrillos turquoise mines are right along there.
Okay.
And it is a marketing name. It was never historic. It's not like Camino Real, which was the Royal Road from Mexico City to Santa Fe. It's not that. It's just more modern day marketing.
I've heard people say that before, and that there was trade in the Native American communities with turquoise.
Oh, the Cerrillos turquoise mines, it's fascinating. They have the oldest turquoise mines in North America. They go back 1,200 years when the Anasazi were mining there. and continued until the demise of the Anasazi civilization. So the Cerrillos turquoise was used as a trade item, like you're saying. In Chaco Canyon, for instance, that you will have macaw feathers from South America, which is traded for turquoise. You will have flint from Ohio in there. You will have shells from California. So the turquoise was used as a trade item for all these ancient trade routes is what I meant to say, I guess. And even in more historic times with the more local Puebloans cultures, they still utilize the turquoise and would use it for trade. It's a very sacred element to native culture. And the Anasazi consider the Cerrillos mines to be the most revered turquoise in the world, in their world, just the world in general. But yeah, Cerrillos turquoise in Santa Fe, that's where it all starts.
Pretty awesome. So Cerrillos is considered the oldest mine in America, and
There is lots of evidence of prehistoric mining in other areas of the American Southwest, Kingman, various areas. But as far as going back that far, the Anasazi mined in Cerrillos.
And so you just mentioned you're actively mining. You've got
Yes.
a couple claims in Cerrillos.
I have 2 federal mining claims in Cerrillos,
Wow.
yes.
So, is this something you do alone, or do you have a crew with you, or like we get people asking, like, how do you mine turquoise? And,
I am the miner.
Yep.
I'm out there doing the hard rock. Well, see, in Cerrillos, the hard rock mining was done by the 40s. So the actual, on my claim, I have 2 huge pits, one's 60 feet deep, one's about 30 feet deep. And that hard rock mining with the blasting and the heavy equipment and all that was done by the 40s because Mother Nature only made so much turquoise, unfortunately. It's a relatively shallow forming mineral, which we can talk about the formation and stuff a little bit later, but it didn't really go very deep, which is why most of the turquoise mines in the world are depleted because they've already been found and dug out, played out,
Yep.
whether it's in China or American Southwest or the Middle East, which are the 3 main areas in the world where turquoise formed, arid regions.
Arid regions,
Mhm.
high elevation usually.
Not necessarily.
It just needs to have a certain amount of moisture.
It's the aridity. It's where the water table is. You can't have a water table too high because turquoise forms as a secondary deposit in the cracks and crevices of existing rocks. The primary rocks are there, and then the turquoise forms secondary, partially from hydrothermal fluids and gases welling up from deep within the earth, carrying a chemical content, but also melting, breaking down the primary rocks so that their chemical components are then free floating. And this is also combined with erosion and weathering. Rainwater is naturally acidic from carbonic acid, so it breaks down rocks. So everything washing down into the earth, if the water table is too high, everything gets flushed on through. So you have a low water table, it allows the turquoise to percolate and form. Because it's a really rare formation or rare thing of why turquoise forms, having the hydrous copper aluminum phosphate. So water, copper, feldspar, and that's feldspar is where you get the aluminum and phosphorus. Having all of those elements in the right combination, in the right circumstances to form is rare, which is why there's only 3 main areas in the world where it did form. But you do need arid regions, the aridity, the dryness, the low water table.
You see it along copper mines a lot of times because of that. The copper is there and that chemical composition
Yes,
is there.
you mentioned Arizona and Nevada earlier. Well, Nevada is the most densely concentrated turquoise zone in the world. And it has to do with what's called the Carlin Rift. So right up the backbone of Nevada is where most of the turquoise is in Nevada. There's a lot of old deposits there. And that's where the earth, the rift, occurred where lots of hydrothermal gases and fluids were bringing minerals up. In Arizona, it's a little different. There we have huge copper mines. Sleeping Beauty, Bisbee, Kingman. Those were huge deposits of what's called copper porphyry, and meaning microscopic copper. You might get some native copper actual specimens, but most of it's microscopic, and they have to do the leaching to extract it. But in those areas where there's all that copper, which is what makes turquoise blue, you get these amazing huge deposits of turquoise. When you have green turquoise, it's because you have enough iron molecules replacing the copper molecules during the turquoise's formation that it alters the color. We get a lot of green in Cerrillos because of the rhyolitic host rock, a lot of iron, and so you get a lot of the greens. But copper makes turquoise blue, yes.
Wow.
We've got Nancy asking, any tips for identification of turquoise? Are there physical tests? That's a great question. We're actually going to get to that. I know we're going to be talking about
Everyone
that.
wants to
just
see
in a
the
minute.
turquoise.
Yeah, we're like, here. Do you
Well,
want
we can do that.
You want to do a panning shot real fast?
let's
I
do it.
can keep asking these questions later. So I think we're on a good tangent here. If we need more questions, I've got them.
I've got them laying flat, but this is basically where we at? There we are. This is some of my personal stash of turquoise. I have rock here from all over the American Southwest. I've got Persian turquoise, but these are amazing, beautiful cabochons, incredible
Wow, look at
colors. That lime green stuff in the center is the famous Caracal Lake phosphate, which is sort of a cousin of turquoise. But this is stuff that I've been collecting for many, many years, and so I've acquired a nice little stash of wonderful pieces that I use in my own jewelry or sometimes in repair. Or like the other day, a lady came by and I was replacing a stone in a ring for her, and she got to pick out her own stone from these trays. While we're doing this is Turquoise turquoise. All of these stones, he's going to close, there we go. So the vast array of color you see here is all from Turquoise.
Wow, I mean, I can see, we were just talking about this before the show. Look at the similarities between
Yes.
that and something that you're also seeing on the market these days, which is the Royston turquoise.
Yeah, if you held these two up, if you didn't have them identified, then you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference, going back to the identification. With turquoise, I mean, I cannot tell you how often I get asked this question. Where's this turquoise from? What kind of turquoise is this? Problem is, as we just showed in these two trays, there is so much overlap of look from one mine to the next, and such different looks coming from the same mine. So both Royston and Turquoise, Manasseh, Blue Gem, were all the turquoise formed in rhyolite. This is a type of magmatic rock, heavy in feldspar and apatite minerals that when they're broken down by the hydrothermal gases or the weather, and you get the aluminum and the phosphorus, the copper comes from the host rock. And you get all these different color variations. You can have a piece of turquoise from Turquoise, Royston, Blue Gem, Manasseh. You can have 4 identical pieces visually. On the isotopic or chemical level, there will be differences from the isotopic levels, more like the concentration, the physical imprint, like a thumbprint. Each deposit has a very unique imprint, an isotopic imprint. But visually, they can be dead ringers. So like I said, these two trays, the Turquoise and the Royston, if you didn't know which was which, you might not be able to tell the difference.
Can I get a couple zoom in shots while you're talking about this?
Yeah. There you go. I just love the variety because you can have the turquoise going from green to blue in the same piece. You can have 2 seams in a mine, a foot apart. They're totally different. So when people say, well, where's this turquoise from? You know what, folks? Usually it's an educated guess at best. Certain mines have classic looks, and you can say, well, it has the look of this mine, but it could be from here, it could be from there, it could be from there. So one of my favorite things to tell people, if you like a piece, you like the color, you like the price, just enjoy it, but don't get hung up on the details because it will drive you crazy. It drives me crazy all the time. But
That's the fun of it sometimes.
that's the fun of it, yes. But here's a word you want to keep in mind, provenance. Provenance is paramount in the world of turquoise. If it's important to you to know where your turquoise is from, what mine it's from, whether it's natural, whether it's stabilized or treated, you really need to know who you're dealing with because you as the consumer probably can't tell, unfortunately. It's a let the buyer beware situation. But provenance means a direct line of authenticity going back to the mine. If you didn't get the turquoise from the miner or dig it yourself, some people say then you really don't know. Well, there's certain of us that are sort of in between all that, but provenance, having the knowledge of where the rock is from, having the authentication, the direct, not chain of command or chain of ownership, but I guess, well, maybe
The
chain
family
of
tree almost.
the family tree. There you go, the family tree. Provenance is paramount in turquoise. Now, like I said, if that's not that big a deal to you, well, that's fine. Just enjoy it because the variety of colors, the variety of matrix patterns, it is a keeps me entertained daily basis. So we'll
Yeah.
keep you entertained too.
That kind of segues into a question we had earlier.
Yes.
Someone asked, where is a trusted site to purchase turquoise? But by what you're saying, it sounds like just finding the person who knows exactly
You
what
know,
it means.
I don't know that it'd be proper for me to sit here and promote one
Name
person
names.
over another in this context, but basically you as the consumer, you need to do your research.
Yeah.
Get
Provenance.
referrals, talk to people who have purchased. There are honest people out there, but you know, here's a funny thing. I was originally hired by my first boss back in '96 to be in the turquoise business because I'd never been in the turquoise business. He wanted somebody that he could groom, to be honest.
That makes sense.
He was a major stabilizer. He had a pretty sophisticated stabilizing process, but he had natural too. And he said, you know what? Don't try to flim-flam people. If it's natural, sell it as natural. If it's stabilized, sell it as stabilized. And just be honest about it because, as he told me and as I found, most turquoise people, well, not most, I can't say most, but a lot of folks out there will say anything to make a sale. They will use the term natural, which we will get into the definition of here a little bit later, I guess. The term natural can be so misappropriated. And people will say natural because they know they can get more money for something. Some people use that term without knowing what they're talking about. Some people are doing it to lie and fraudulently make a sale. But that's what my boss wanted, was somebody who would just say, hey, this is what it is. You know, buy it. If you like it, great. And if not, that's fine. But honesty and provenance are real important in the world of turquoise. And you as a consumer, it's your responsibility to figure out who you want to deal with.
All right. Well, how many people do we have watching right now, Marco?
Yeah, close to 100.
All right.
Hey.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I know we got started there real fast. Just to let you know, we are Turquoise Skies, a jewelry store here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and our special guest today is Dayton Simmons. We definitely went into an introduction before, so if you get a chance, if you're just joining, go back and start the show, and you can get that intro. If you're joining us for the first time and you get a chance, join our private Facebook group. It's called the Inner Circle. This is a place where we'd like to see your jewelry. We like to talk about jewelry. We like to talk about turquoise. And we're always looking for questions. This is why we love bringing experts on the show. Dayton is an expert on turquoise, obviously. That was what we're talking about. And so check that out. The link is in the description below. Also, give us a like, give us a share. That really helps us. Share with your friends. We'd like to get as many people in on this as possible. This is really great information. The question earlier was, where do you find where do you find a reputable dealer of turquoise? And, you know, a big part of that is on you as a consumer to ask the right questions and do a little bit of homework. And maybe that leads to one of my questions is, what are those questions you should be asking if you're buying turquoise that you feel like would be the best questions to ask to help point you in the right direction?
Okay. Person I was asking a few questions ago, is stabilized a bad thing necessarily? And no, it's not, as long as you know what you're getting. It's all about disclosure. So if you want to know about your turquoise, then yeah, you can ask, is it natural or is it treated? And treated means stabilized or electrochemically enhanced. There's various ways to artificially harden turquoise, because you know what, folks? Most turquoise comes out of the ground too soft and chalky to use as is. Where's my... I'm just going to pan in on this. This is what's called chalk turquoise.
Oh, yeah, we have some of that
Okay.
underneath too.
This is turquoise. This is how most turquoise comes out of the ground. It is a soft, porous, chalky material. Stick to your tongue and ride on a sidewalk with it. It has zero commercial viability as far as jewelry. It's nothing more than decoration because it is too soft. It will crack and crumble, fall apart, absorb contaminants, change color. So most turquoise comes out of the ground like this. It then goes through the stabilizing process, which is a plastic infusion process, or electrochemical processes which artificially harden the material, but that's all about giving it commercial viability. Natural turquoise is defined as, and there is no ifs, ands, or buts about this, although a lot of people might argue, but they can argue all they want. Natural turquoise means it is hard enough to cut and polish as it comes out of the ground. And that is because it has a high enough silica content. Silica is like quartz or agate, folks. It's what makes the Earth's crust hard. It's like a piece of quartz, a quartz or piece of agate. that hard material, when is naturally present in the turquoise, then see, even the chalk's going to have some silica, but it's too soft. And then there's a thing called the Mohs scale, which is the hardness scale for minerals. 1 is a talc, 10 is a diamond. A 10 will scratch a 9, a 9 will scratch an 8, so on and so forth. Turquoise, like that piece of chalk there, is maybe like a 3.5, or maybe a 4, but probably like a 3.5 on the Mohs scale. So it's not very hard. You can scratch it pretty easily with a knife. As the silica content increases in turquoise, in the ground, as it's forming, then it eventually can get to a point where it's about a 5.5 on the Mohs scale. When it's a 5.5, it's at that point where the silica content is high enough that you can actually start to cut and polish. The chalk turquoise doesn't have enough silica to take a shine. It might, as it gets a little bit harder, we call it hard light. It can shape, but it's never like this is a harder piece of it's not quite hard enough to resist contamination from other elements, soap, body oil, what have you. But it's a lot harder than the first piece I'm showing you. The silica content increases when you get to 5.5. From 5.5 to a 6 in the Mohs scale is what I consider natural. Now you get to 6 to a 6.5, which is really about as hard as turquoise ever gets. That's gem grade. That is the good stuff. So back to your question about what kind of questions you want to ask. You can ask, is it natural? Is it stabilized? Is it treated? I mean, there's a funny little story that there was a couple of women from Canada were in Santa Fe looking to buy jewelry for their online store, and they're in some downtown establishment, and they say, "So, is this turquoise natural?" And the sales clerk behind the counter said, "Oh, yes." "So it's not stabilized?" And the girl behind the counter says, "What do you mean?" Exactly. She's just there, he, salespeople, they're there to make a sale. They don't necessarily know what natural is, what stabilized is. So you can ask these questions, but first know who you're asking the questions of, because some people, as I said earlier, with misinformation, they don't know. And then there's disinformation, people that will lie through their teeth just to make a sale to you. That's a huge factor.
It happens all the time. Just because someone's behind the counter, it doesn't mean they really know.
Yeah. They're really good at sales, and they're good at, and that a lot of people, especially with the treated turquoise, it's all about the bottom line, dollars. You buy it for this, you want to sell it for that. Well, stabilized turquoise, back to that earlier question, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because it does make it available and less expensive, more consumer friendly for a lot of people. So if getting gem grade turquoise becomes important to you, then you need to ask more questions, do more research, figure out who it is you're dealing with. Because there's also other kinds of treated turquoise, the Elgin process, the Fouts enhancement process. Man has come up with a lot of ways to take this soft, chalky, porous material and give it new life to make it usable in jewelry, carvings, beads, what have you.
Can't stress that enough, how important it is to find a reputable dealer, because there's so many salespeople out there, especially online. Anyone can post anything these days, and to their defense, maybe they don't know and they think they're doing something, but
misinformation.
They just don't know. And so this one of the reasons why we're doing shows like this, and we reach out to experts, is because this is great for you to know, and hearing it from someone with the experience. Arm yourself with this information.
And just so you guys know, the Gemological Institute of America, GIA, this is part of my accreditation. Back in 2007, they had heard that I give talks on turquoise, and it's called Turquoise Natural or Otherwise. And it's a talk that I give, a seminar really, on what natural turquoise is, what chalk turquoise is, and the various processes they go through. Well, my talk was videotaped by GIA at their main campus out in Carlsbad, and to this day that is what they have in their library for their curriculum on turquoise.
Wow.
So it's patting myself in the back, but I'm really proud about this, because education is a big part of turquoise. It's one thing to appreciate it, but to really get into the knowledge of it and to be a collector, you got to educate yourself, folks.
Yep. Before we move on, there's something that I just want to mention. This is a little hardness testing kit. We mentioned hardness. You can buy these on Amazon. They're pretty inexpensive. Where are you going, Marco? Right there. Go to that camera. To the front.
Oh, where are you at? There you are.
Too many cameras.
Ah, so
One director, too
here's a
many
cool
cameras.
little
This is a neat thing, yes.
scratch test. I'm not going to get too into it because I don't want to diverge too far into this. We have a video on our YouTube channel. I did maybe like 7 or 8 years ago using this kit and scratch some turquoise and show you how to do it. Just be careful because if you have jewelry that you like and you're scratching it, you will put a scratch in it. So this is, just be warned.
You'll know the quality.
You'll
but
know
you'll have to
with the hardness
repolish
of it when you're done.
Best to do this turquoise out of the jewelry.
It's better to do this before you buy. If you really want to know though, and anyway, watch that video. You're welcome, and you'll learn a little bit how to use this thing.
That's
And
a
these
question.
have the numbers that I was talking about.
Yeah.
5, 6, 2,
Yep,
so 3 or 8.
they've got one.
One on each side. Okay.
Yeah, so we gotta-
So you can actually take a piece of chalk or a piece of hard light, and in the rough form, like I'm showing you there, you can
Yeah, we
actually
can
do a
almost
scratch
test this,
test and see where you're at.
A quick question about using that on rough turquoise. I know you're showing me some like band or ribbon turquoise earlier. So if you're scratching it to find out the turquoise, would you want to scratch where the turquoise is, or does it matter for the whole, even the host?
No, the turquoise.
Okay.
Because, see, this turquoise is formed in that primary rock as a secondary mineral. Well, the rhyolite that the turquoise forms in is really, really hard. It can be harder
Yeah.
than the turquoise.
Oh, okay.
It can also be softer. So I guess that's an answer to your question. Yes, you can scratch both because it will affect the polishability if you're looking at ribbon
Yeah,
turquoise.
especially if there's any matrix too, because there's
Yes,
going to be different
yes.
hardnesses.
But a lot of times with, this piece here, this is a piece of turquoise from my mine. And this is chalk. This is a pretty piece. Okay, you will never take a polish. But look here. There's a seam. That's a seam of turquoise. That's turquoise in situ, where it's formed in the existing rock in the crack and crevice. But that is all chalk. If you were to split that open, it wouldn't be any different than what I'm showing you here on the face.
Yeah,
So,
see,
but the ribbon turquoise, a lot of it is stabilized on the market. There is a certain amount that is hard enough to use, and that's kind of fun too. Real quick, I'm going to show you these. Here is another example of.
I'll get you right there so we can
Okay.
get your shot. Let's see. Right there, perfect.
So I'm going to make bookends out of these, y'all.
Oh, I'll
Okay.
take two.
Now, this was a piece of turquoise. This is from the Royston mine, not mine, but from my friend Philip's claim in Royston. So it was cut in half, and I was like, oh, that looks like bookends to me. Well, here's the turquoise. This is hard, really nice turquoise. But here on the surface, it looks like chalk. And that's called kaolin or kaolinite. A lot of times you'll see that in Nevada turquoise. You think you're looking at chalk, and then just below the surface is this hard, gemmy material. So in this piece, I went ahead and did a little polishing. Maybe
Oh, wow.
do we need this camera
Yeah,
for?
that would be better for that one.
So here,
Whoa.
most of it's soft, but around this nugget and here and on the side, if you can see the sheen, I actually polished that, but it's a little hard to see in this lighting. But
Oh, there you
but
go.
this is actually polished, and then down here, so it's blue there, and green. Look at that green. That is a solid, thick seam of green, and it's probably going to be a good portion of that once I do some grinding and expose all that. But here we have turquoise in the cracks and crevices of the rhyolite. Some of it's softer, some of it's harder, but that's what you're up against in the world of turquoise. Another cool thing, I think we're going to use the
Yeah,
big
do
camera
one
for
the
this.
Big boy.
So this is a larger piece of rhyolite, and I go through really big pieces of rhyolite looking for turquoise. On this one, I could see some mineralization along here. I could actually see some green. And there was a seam running all the way around. Saw a lot of brown, but you never know with these things. So I take my 3-pound sledge and my chisel and I whack it. Look what's inside. Dark green, gem grade turquoise. This over here is almost what we call the chocolate turquoise in Cerritos. There was a squash blossom on Facebook a few weeks ago of material that it's almost like brown turquoise. It's so dark green, it's getting into brown.
Yeah.
Here, these are the mirror images of the seam. So this turquoise, and there's more green up above, this formed in that crack and crevice, and when I whacked it open, I exposed the turquoise.
That's cool. Can I get a zoom in on
Yes,
this?
yes, go for it.
It's so hard to see because it looks like that.
Yeah, we've never done this before.
Do you see the shine there?
So that's
there?
gem quality.
That is
turquoise.
gem quality. That's hard gem grade
You
turquoise.
can feel it.
In a piece
Feels-
like this, how would you end up getting that chocolate turquoise out?
Well, lapidary saws.
Yeah.
Now, what's a lapidary saw? More people might be familiar with a tile saw because you see it in construction. It is a device with a diamond encrusted blade. Instead of like a woodworker's table saw, you got the blade with the teeth in it. You push the turquoise through the saw blade. With a lapidary saw, it's a diamond encrusted blade, and you use water for cooling and lubrication. So I literally am going to cut that out with a big saw.
Wow.
You know, I would cut, well, for instance, let's see.
That's an art to itself, finding out like exactly where you
Here,
wanna cut.
here's a piece. Here are pieces. We're going to go here still. So you look, it's flat. I saw this was a piece of rhyolite, and I ended up slicing it like a loaf of bread. Look what's inside. Can you all see
art
that?
viewers, no, give us your best guesses of what this is.
This
A lot of you know.
this is what's called ribbon turquoise or boulder turquoise. So the vein of green there is all there is. There might be more turquoise, but very little bit showing there. But when I got to that point and I opened that up, like, oh my gosh, there's the turquoise. So this will turn into probably a pair of earrings or something, but long teardrop piece of turquoise, or I'm not really showing that really well, but anyway, that's the saw. You're literally sawing it open and exposing the turquoise.
You picked that spot just because you saw that little bit of turquoise on the lip. On the
Yeah,
side.
and the rock was quite a bit bigger, but yeah, I saw enough color, and so I figured I may not get a face of turquoise, but I might get some ribbon, and sure enough, I got some ribbon.
Gosh.
Go ahead.
I would just when you find the stone, and you where is it that you're looking for to know which way you're going to cut? Is it a guess? Is it? I mean, how do you look at it? There's
It's
an
called
art to it.
it is an art. It is experience, because reading turquoise is really, really tough. You can think you're going in, you know, Mother Nature is kind of erratic. It does not make straight, flat seams. You're going cutting in, and all of a sudden it takes a hard left or a hard right, and you've cut right through a seam of turquoise that, oh, but you just kind of got to go with it because you don't know. You can't see without X-ray vision what's inside.
We had someone
But-
ask a minute ago, do we have any books? Do you have any books you recommend about turquoise? I know Joe Dan Lowry has one out.
Well, Joe Dan's book is a fine coffee table book. It has a lot of good information. It's okay to plug here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The two best books on turquoise were recently written by Philip Chambliss and Mike Ryan. Philip is a dear friend of mine. I met him during the very first week I was in the turquoise business back in '96. He is who I purchased my Verde claim from. I have two Cereus claims, the Bluebell and the Verdes I purchased from him. He is Mr. Researcher. And then Mike Ryan came along and helped him organize 20 years of boxes and boxes of research and got it into the first book. And that one is called the, let me see if I can get the name right, Great American Turquoise Rush,
Yep.
1890 to 1910. And that discusses the period that I spoke about earlier, when turquoise was first being prospected and discovered and sought after in the American Southwest, Cereus, Silver City, and Tombstone. That book covers those areas, okay? The second book, book 2, Turquoise in America, part 2, turquoise 1910 to 1990. That's a pretty close approximation, but you can find it. This book's amazing. Hands down the best book going on turquoise. The information, the photos, the overall complex, comprehensive understanding that Philip and Mike have given us in those books is beyond words. So those are the two best, but as I said, Joe Dan's is good. And there are others out there, but
Yeah.
Phillips books are the best by far.
So
Awesome.
the Great American Turquoise Rush,
Mhm.
1890 to 1910.
That's
What was the other
book
one?
1, and then Turquoise in America, part 2.
Okay.
So if you're interested in these books, we're going to get links to these books, and we will be posting them in an inner circle. So join our inner circle, and we will be posting links to these for you. So yeah, if you're part of that, we'll let you know, and we'll connect afterwards to we'll get all the information right.
Right, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about education and researching and figuring stuff out, folks.
All right, where are we at?
I want you all to hear something.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So, hardness of turquoise. When turquoise is really hard, it clinks. It can clink like glass. As the softer material is going to be a much duller thud. So listen to this. Just hear that higher pitched clinky sound. Okay. That is really good, hard, jammy turquoise. And that's in this bin here that I was pawing through. You can see the color, there's no chalk in there. It's all deep, rich colors, blues and greens on the host rock, but that's hard. That's really nice. As compared to this, duller thud. I mean, it's still a rock. It's still going to break your teeth if you bit into it, but that is not nearly as hard. Leaves chalk on my hands. So this material is what needs to be stabilized. Even though it's, like I said, it's hard, it's got a certain level of solidity to it, it's not going to take a polish like this first batch that I was just cleaning.
This sounds like glass almost.
Yeah, yeah.
And this sounds just has that deeper,
Chalkier sound.
Chalkier sound. Yeah.
So there are ways to, and going back to earlier questions, how do you know? Well, in turquoise, natural versus stabilized turquoise, you can actually feel the difference. Okay, Shep, take these two pieces,
Yeah.
rub your thumbs on them simultaneously, and tell me what kind of difference you sense.
Yeah, this is smoother. It feels like almost like glass. This is a little softer. I can almost feel like
What about the
like
friction?
the friction
drag?
of this one is there's more friction there, almost rubbery. Not quite rubbery. It's still
Okay,
still
but-
glassy, but
Press a little harder on the stabilized, because typically I find that the stabilized has more of a friction drag.
okay, I can see that. Yeah,
Okay, so there's ways, and this takes time, folks. This is not something you do overnight, but with orientation, with experience, you can actually begin to discern between natural and stabilized turquoise. Now, there's also a difference in sheen, which may not be. I'm not sure if we can.
that was gonna be hard, but we'll try on this camera here. Yeah, you can see the difference there.
I
a
call
little
it the. We're getting a lot of glare, but
You can turn off that light.
there we go. There you can see it there, kind of. But I call it the sheen of plastic, which is this one. Oh, there we go. That helps. Yeah. Okay, the sheen of plastic and the glow of a stone. It's subtle, but there is a difference in the way that these two stones shine. And the reason being, stabilized turquoise being infused, impregnated with plastic, works on reflection. So the light hits the surface and bounces off. Natural turquoise, being silicified, which is the technical term for a high silica content, works on refraction. So the light enters the turquoise, bounces around, and comes back out. So you do get a different shine to the turquoise. It's kind of like refraction is how rainbows work. Light enters the water droplets, bounces around, and comes back out. And it's also like looking into a piece of agate, where you're looking down into the agate. With gem grade turquoise, with magnification, it can be a micro thin layer, and you look like you're going a mile deep into the turquoise.
Wow.
It's glorious.
That's-
But the stabilized
Yep.
surface.
Yep. There's a barrier.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
basically
there's
just resin, right?
it's resin, exactly. And here's the kind of when we say resin, what do we mean?
Yep.
Plastic paper with the scorpion inside. Okay, that is literally the kind of plastic that was first used in the stabilizing process, which began in 1950, by the way. So a lot of people will say, "Oh, my turquoise is really old. It's got to be natural." Well, what is really old? Oh, 60s, 70s. I'm like, well, it's not old enough. But look at that. That's plastic. So back in the day, Old Man Hardy was watching his friend make these, and he put a piece of turquoise in. This is how the story goes, anyway. Turquoise was full of great stories, but this one I think fairly accurate. He saw, oh, put a piece of turquoise in there, and he saw how the turquoise absorbed the resin and it darkened in color, and all of a sudden the light bulb went off in his head, and the stabilizing process was invented. 1950. That is the cutoff point.
Wow.
So from that point on, all the chalk turquoise that used to go into the dumps that had zero commercial viability, all of a sudden it became usable. Someone asked a little bit ago about do they color turquoise? Yes, they do. Now, stabilizing by itself is typically a clear resin, like the little scorpion guy there. But there is also dyed turquoise. I mean, look at this.
I think the most common we've seen here is the Mojave, like purple dye.
Yeah,
turquoise.
purple turquoise, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great seller, and you know the people that make it do really well. But this piece of turquoise is not only stabilized, but this is from back then. It probably had Tidy Bowl as the dye. Literally, they used to use Tidy Bowl. So it's blue dye to enhance the color. The stabilizing process by itself will darken the turquoise and enhance the color. But then they put in dye, and then we have full-on fake turquoise. So at least this is real, which I get a lot of people saying, is this real? Well, is that the question you're asking, or are you asking, is it natural? Big difference there. This is real. It's real treated. This is full-on block turquoise.
Yep.
That may or may not have any turquoise in it. It's probably just blue plastic with black stuff swirled in to make the matrix. And you'll see that so much in the Asian imports, the cheap jewelry. You will see it in some, native jewelry from the American Southwest and some of the less expensive stuff. But places like the Portal in Santa Fe, where the Indians sell under the Palace of the Governors, that stuff's not allowed. They can use stabilized turquoise or natural, most of it's stabilized, but they are not allowed to sell block turquoise. Here's another version. This is called composite turquoise. So this is chunks of stuff thrown together. This is a polished cabochon. Got this from my friend Tim Blueflint. Hi, Tim. I'm sure you're listening. And this material is very prevalent also. It's chunks of low-grade turquoise put under 10,000 psi in these big presses, and blocks of turquoise are formed. And so if you know what you're looking for, you can really say, oh, that's fake. That's not real. But if you don't really know what you're talking about, you can get fooled real easily.
We've got Zake saying, is it called cultured when it is dyed?
I've never heard that term used.
I've heard cultured be an alternative term to this this block of compressed turquoise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm learning something new today. Yay.
That's come around lately, probably the last 5 years or so.
Okay.
Is purple Mojave turquoise dyed? Yes.
Yes.
And they usually put a little bit of bronze in it too.
I know, the bronze matrix.
It looks cool.
See,
I just want it to be natural.
It does have a visual appeal, but is it natural? Is it? No. It is block. It is compressed. It's this composite. They take pieces of turquoise, they dye it, they compress it, they put the bronze in between to make the matrix. So there's nothing natural about it, but it's a big seller, and they make beads and cabs and carvings. It's out there. Mojave green too, but purple turquoise. Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah.
Now it's kind of interesting. Bisbee and Tyrone turquoise are the two, and a little bit of Persian too. You will get lavender turquoise.
The Golden Hills coming out of Kurdistan.
It has the light
lavender,
lavender, but not like the Bisbee or the Tyrone. Those are just like these deep, rich
I'd love to see that.
lavenders, and it comes from the host rock. Okay, because turquoise is formed, and it's something I didn't really say before. During the time when turquoise is formed, it's under high pressure from volcanism. This is millions of years ago. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and everything's swirling around, and the turquoise is in solution, which is why it goes down all the cracks and crevices. It just fills in. As it cools, it then crystallizes into what we know as turquoise, whether it's the soft chalk, the higher grade silicified gem grade turquoises, but it's all about things being liquid and forming like that. So just Mother Nature doing her thing.
Yeah, millions of years.
Millions of years.
So what is a host rock? Mother stone.
Mhm.
So I guess it may sound obvious, but sometimes we throw these terms out because we talk about them all day. Basically, the host rock is the material around the turquoise.
It's the primary rock that the turquoise formed in as a secondary deposit.
There you go.
primary rock. So like, look, mountains get pushed up, and then they start breaking down, and other stuff is welling up from deep, and then the turquoise forms from the mother stone or the host rock. Yes.
Yeah. So whenever you're talking about vulcanized and under pressure, so a lot of this mother stone was it like more like an igneous rock, or is it like the lava?
Technically, no, it's magmatic. There's a difference. So lava comes spewing out of a volcano and goes out over the land. That's lava. Magmatic rock, which is granite, rhyolite, obsidian, or tufa or pumice, comes up from deep within the earth. It's a welling up of mineralogy. So the Cerrillos Hills, where the turquoise, where my turquoise claims are, the Cerrillos Turquoise, it is a small mountain range, big hills, small mountains of rhyolite. And that's pretty much what the whole range is made of, this brown, highly silicified, hard, multi-species of minerals within it. It got pushed up, and this came about from, I mentioned the Carlin Rift earlier in Nevada, which is why all that mineralogy created all the turquoise. In New Mexico, we had what's called the Rio Grande Rift, where New Mexico went and the Rio Grande formed.
You can see it when you're driving through the city.
You can see it when you're driving through the city. And that uplift, it's Mother Earth pushing up from deep within the earth, whether it's from plate tectonics or the volcanism, the volcanic activity. But that rhyolite was pushed up into the hills, and over the course of time it wears down. But that's the Royston district, lots of rhyolite, the Blue Gem, Manassas north of here. There are other types of rocks that turquoise forms in, okay? But the host rock is quite commonly the rhyolite. In Nevada, you get a lot of the black rock, we call it chert. That's up in north central Nevada, you get a lot of that. So it's all about the chemicals. So you got the copper, the aluminum, the phosphorus mixing with the water, and where all the elements are just right, you get turquoise.
And you talked earlier about the copper and aluminum helping to create that blue color, and then it was the iron that kind of lends to the green color.
And I mentioned earlier the phosphite, the really famous lime green phosphite from like Caraco Lake, Orville Jack, the Northern Lights. That is from zinc. So zinc molecules have replaced the copper molecules to give it that lime green chartreuse color.
Wow, okay.
And that's just in a very narrow band up in north central Nevada near Crescent Valley where that occurred. You see it in some of the Chinese turquoise, but phosphite is a really neat thing. It's another cousin of turquoise. Cool. Variscite, while we're on the subject, another cousin of turquoise. Variscite is turquoise minus copper, essentially.
Okay.
Variscite's become very popular in the last few years because variscite's still in the ground. Back in the day, the miners weren't that interested in variscite because there was plenty of turquoise.
Yep.
As the turquoise deposits have been played out, a lot of the turquoise miners, mostly in Nevada, are going towards the variscite deposits that are still there. So it forms like turquoise in the same way as a secondary deposit. It's silicified, it's hard, there's different levels of hardness, but there's no copper. It is turquoise minus copper, chemically speaking. It all goes back to chemistry, folks.
I've seen some where they're pretty close, or maybe they're around in the same area.
Absolutely. You can get both in the same mine.
Yeah.
Orville Jack had turquoise, variscite, and phosphite, all in the same deposit. But you got to go back to thinking about everything in solution. So when you're cooking up, making a big stew, and you put a new ingredient in, if you don't stir it thoroughly, then you get swirls of different colors in the soup or the stew.
Yep.
Same thing with Mother Nature. If the zinc or the copper didn't quite get swirled in certain areas, you get different chemistry, hence different minerals, but they can flow one to the other.
That makes sense. Before we get too much further, I know we've got a couple questions.
Yeah, please.
You guys want to do some rapid fire real quick?
We've got, hold on, Marco, we got this. So, Carol, we'll get to you in just a second. We've had a couple of people ask before that, though. White buffalo, what is it? We hear this term, white buffalo turquoise.
Nope.
Which is a big thing.
It is sold as white turquoise. It's marketing, folks. But thankfully, the miners don't call it that. It's once it leaks. It's out in the Royston district. It is actually, if you watched that series Turquoise Fever a couple of years ago, that little short little mini-series, they actually talked about that.
Yeah.
And it's actually dolomite. It is a different mineral altogether. Just happens to form in the same area. So you get that beautiful white with the black matrix, and it's lovely and it's wonderful, but it is not turquoise. Zero relationship chemically speaking. But it's really nice. But it's not white turquoise.
The rumor that I've heard about where the name came from, I think it was the Godbird, where we see Dry Creek, that turquoise that's really light, they used to call it Magic Buffalo. And then,
okay.
so they would sell the dolomite as White Buffalo because it was all the way white.
Right.
And
And
then,
of course, the white buffalo has such significance to the native cultures. The sacredness of the white buffalo is enormous. So it's marketing.
marketing. That's how it is. Marketing, everybody. Nope, it is not turquoise. But we do often, when we sell it here at the shop, we say that's White Buffalo. We just don't say the word turquoise.
Right.
It's all about disclosure. It goes back to that, folks. Knowing who you're dealing with, finding honest people that know enough to be honest and sell it to you for what it is.
Is Wild Horse turquoise? No, that is magnesite.
That
It's
is
actually
magnesite.
one of the common stones that is dyed to look like turquoise.
Wild horse itself is not dyed. It is chemically magnesite, but it's a very unique deposit from down near Tucson. It's beautiful, the oranges and the browns and all, but it is chemically not turquoise. But you're quite right that magnesite, along with howlite, are two other minerals that are dyed to make fake turquoise. So there's different, magnesite can look differently from different parts of the world, but they can dye it, and they can dye the matrix. They can do all kinds of funny things to. He's pulling out some. There we go, dyed magnesite right
There
there.
we go. Here's some dyed magnesite.
So to look at this, you think, this is nuggets of turquoise, but no, it is the mineral magnesite that has been dyed blue to mimic turquoise.
And sometimes I think when we talked about magnesite before, you can almost see some white parts on it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
dyed.
especially if this hasn't been worn or anything, but if you're seeing someone with these bubblegum necklaces that look like this kind of turquoise, you'll see where the stones are rubbing against each other that it'll start turning white right there next
It's
to the hole.
a surface treat typically. It doesn't always penetrate all the way through.
Howlite, someone else said something about howlite. Let me
Yep.
see if I got some of that. Somewhere.
Howlite's a boronite. That's what borax is made from.
Yeah.
But
We use it in jewelry making.
but it is used. It's beautiful, but as long as we know what we're getting.
Here's some more magnesite just to show that off. That you can see how that could trick
To
you.
the uninitiated, you think that's turquoise, but
Here's some howlite. The square beads is howlite. I think it is, this was I think bought from Joanne Fabric or something. I think it says right here turquoise dyed howlite.
Turquoise dye.
Joanne
Yeah.
Fabric, gotta love it. You're a great purveyor of turquoise.
We have another question asking, what about land or blue? How can you tell if it's land or blue?
Yeah, that's quite.
Oh,
quite
boy.
about that.
That's opening Pandora's box right there. Okay, Lander Blue, for those of you who don't know, is the most expensive turquoise in the world.
Whoa.
It can go for anywhere from $200 to $500 per carat. A carat is 1/5 of a gram. That's how we sell cabochons of turquoise, is by the carat. Same thing with diamonds. If you hear the term, this pair of diamond stud earrings is 1/10 of a carat or whatever. It's a measure of weight. It's a small amount of weight. Lander Blue was what we call a hat mine, meaning it's so small that if you take a nice big cowboy hat, 10-gallon hat, you could cover the whole deposit. Literally, folks, 104 pounds is all that came out of the Lander Blue pit. That's 2 5-gallon buckets.
Wow.
I've probably seen 800 pounds try to be passed off as Lander Blue.
Do you have any Lander Blue with you today?
I don't have any with me, no. I do have some in my collection, but it's not in these trays.
Yeah, I'm looking it up. Gosh.
There's a,
It is if you know what you're looking for, if you're halfway familiar with it, it's hard to be fooled, but the thing is, most people are not. I actually got to assess the collection of the 3 sisters who found the Lander Blue claim.
oh really?
And they asked me to come up, and I saw the very first nugget that came out of the ground.
Wow, that's cool.
It was really
Pretty
cool.
young mine, and
The claim is now owned by Bob Barusha, trader out in California, and he bought their collection, as I understand it, and the actual claim. But very little turquoise came out of that. It has the tightest spider web.
Yeah.
Spider web is that tight nodular look. Where's a good example? Well, I have some here, but anyway, that's a really great piece right there. Spider web number 8. If you can,
Yeah.
that one cabochon. That's classic spider web. That's high grade. That is guaranteed number 8 spider web turquoise. So spider web is when you have that tight nodular pattern. The Lander Blue makes this look monstrous. The nodules in the Lander Blue are so tiny, so dark blue, but there's also a golden color to the matrix that you don't see in a lot of the other Nevada spider webs. There's a lot of great spiderweb turquoise, Red Mountain and Indian Mountain, and beautiful material, but if you have the two to compare, it's not Lander Blue. Lander Blue is very distinct, very unique, and it is the most fraudulently sold turquoise in the world because it can bring so much money. And a lot of it, people get stuff passed off as Lander Blue. I've made a lot of people mad when they come into my booth at a show and say, "Oh, is this Lander Blue?" Or "Look at this piece of Lander Blue I just bought." And I learned my lesson. You don't just tell them, "No, it's not," because people get mad. Don't kill me. I'm just the messenger, right? Lander Blue. If somebody's selling you Lander Blue, don't believe them unless you know who you're dealing with. There are a couple people that I could send you to right now that have the real deal.
Wow.
You will pay through the nose for it,
Yep.
but they have it. And because they have, they're credible, they have the reputation. But Lander Blue in general, don't believe it. A lot of high-grade Chinese is sold as Lander Blue, a lot of high-grade Nevada, but Lander Blue is a very unique thing.
Yeah, again, this comes back to credibility, reputation, do your homework. If you're just seeing someone post as Lander Blue, just as rule of thumb, I would say question it.
Take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, take it with a grain of salt. We had a couple of years ago, maybe probably like 10 years ago now. There was a piece that sold for about $10,000 a carat in Santa Fe.
Maybe $10,000 for the whole piece.
Okay,
Because a carat of turquoise is a really small amount.
there was a lot. I'll try to find the source or wherever I saw the.
It could have been 50 carats at $200 or 200 carats at $500 a carat. That makes it. I think it's a $10,000.
There was a $10,000 purchase, and it was.
Yeah, I think it's a single stone.
Okay.
But yeah, the price goes up real fast.
Hopefully that gives you some perspective. Oh right, do we have any more questions up there, Marco? That you see? What about translucent turquoise? Michael on YouTube is asking, what about translucent?
Translucent turquoise. Well, I actually have some at home. I didn't bring it with. Okay, translucent turquoise is turquoise that is so highly silicified that if you put a bright light behind it, it's like a piece of agate. The light will come through.
Wow.
Wow, cool. I'd love to see that.
And I talked about the clink earlier. You think that sounds like glass. Translucent turquoise is clink, 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 clink. It's so hard.
And
it's also very brittle. You got to be really careful working with it as a result. Shatter on you. But translucent, literally, a bright light goes in, you can see it coming through. It's incredible to see.
Is Dry Creek turquoise, as far as I've heard, correct me if I'm wrong, Dry Creek comes from the Godber Burnham mine, and it is their color of their very light, pale turquoise.
Okay. The historic use of Godber Burnham, where's it? I got some here. Okay, Dry Creek. Most Dry Creek that we see on the market, as far as I understand, and I've got pretty good sourcing on this, comes from the Valley Blue mine. The name Dry Creek is associated with the Godber Burnham mine, the historic famous mine north of Austin, Nevada, that's mined currently by Jerry and Bruce Woods. Well, these three pieces there, that is Dry Creek from Godber.
Do you see that? There are three right here in Dry Creek turquoise.
I wish I had another tray. I guess I have more of it in another tray, but I bought this from the woods, and so I got Provenance. The name Dry Creek is associated with this Valley Blue material, and Valley Blue is a beautiful mine, beautiful turquoise, but because of the name, marketing, Dry Creek commands more money, and so they call it that, even though it's from
other places.
But historically, it is from the Godber mine back in the day.
Okay,
so
good.
A lot of questions on pricing of turquoise.
Okay.
How do prices vary? What is the main thing with that?
Okay. I think I mentioned earlier that turquoise cabochons are sold by the carat, 1/5 of a gram. When it's in the rough, that's Sleeping Beauty, folks. That's the real deal. Gotten from the Sleeping Beauty store in Globe, Arizona back in the day. This is the real deal. It's sold by the gram. So turquoise, stabilized turquoise can sell for 20 cents a gram up to maybe $2 or $3 per gram. Maybe, some of the rarer stuff, some of the prettier stuff could command more money, but in general, stabilized turquoise doesn't bring anywhere near the value of natural turquoise, which is going back to the fact that, or the notion that a lot of people will misrepresent their turquoise to get more money for it. Natural turquoise can range, I mean, nowadays with the price escalation, $1 a carat is the least you're going to find it for. A lot of what I sell is in the neighborhood of $5 to $20 per carat. And then you get into some of the high grade, like that piece of spiderweb number 8 that we pointed out earlier. That's $100 a carat, folks. So that little stone at like, I don't know, 3 or 4 carats, it's a $300 or $400 stone on the market. You get into the Indian Mountain, the Black Widow, some of these real exotic high-grade Nevada turquoises with the incredible spiderweb can command $50 to $100 per carat. Like I said, a carat is a very, very small amount of turquoise.
It's small.
So you put it on a scale.
You know what? We've got a scale right here. Let's just show everybody how much a carat is.
Okay, let's pull this. I was just talking about this piece of the.
We've got Starburst asking, can you show me a piece of Kingman with spiderweb? I've got one right here.
There you go. Perfect example.
There you go, Starburst. Kingman.
Yeah, so this one has that red hue to it.
Yep.
Yeah, when I was looking at that Lander blue,
I've got this on too. There. It's on my neck.
Yeah, I do see that gold color in that Lander blue you were talking about.
And not all Lander has it, but the super high grade does.
Yeah.
Okay, so this piece of number 8 turquoise.
Tear that out.
So you, if it's in carats, it's carats. If it's in grams, if your scale's in grams, you multiply the number by 5 to get the carat weight.
So our carat weight on this is 5.5 carats.
Okay.
And grams, we're looking at, that'll be 1.1. 1.1 grams.
Okay. So even if it's $80 a carat, that's a $400 stone.
There you go.
Okay. Now, put this next to it, and we'll pull that piece off. But look at this. Look at the size difference. Leave it there for a second, Shay. Okay. So that's 5.5, and then this is larger, thicker, more surface area. It weighs
13.6 grams, or let's look at our carats here.
Multiply it by 5.
We're getting 68 carats.
So 5.5 and 68. This is how we sell turquoise. It's all about weight. Bigger, thicker pieces, way more. They cost more. And then pricing, there's various factors you have to look into. Here's an interesting thing. This is called backing. The stuff on the back,
Yeah.
this is a backing compound. It is a 2-part epoxy that is utilized for a couple of reasons when properly used. It fills in negative space because turquoise does not come out of the ground flat. So you've got areas that are irregular. The 2-part epoxy fills in the negative voids. It also gives rigidity to the hard silicified turquoise. As Marcus said earlier, some of that translucent hard stuff can shatter because it turns, natural can translate to brittle. So the backing gives a rigidity factor as a preventive measure for turquoise. So it's actually going to be a good thing. Thing is, back in the day, a lot of the backing that was used was DevCon. And DevCon was used for auto body work. It has a steel component. So in this backing, you can see a little flecks of steel. Guess what? Steel weighs a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So when I get an old collection of turquoise and it's back with DevCon,
Yeah.
I have to take that into consideration in my pricing. If it's Lander Blue, the most expensive turquoise in the world, was back with DevCon. So some of these stones are half DevCon. You're paying $500 a carat for steel versus turquoise. That's the way it was back in the day when Lander Blue was mined back in the early 70s. Nowadays, there are 2-part epoxies that have the rigidity and the strength, 2,500 psi for the really good stuff that I like to use, but it doesn't have the weight of steel. So pricing, you have to look at the backing, what kind of backing. You look at the grade of the turquoise. You look at not only the hardness, but out of each mine, you're going to get mid-grade, low-grade, high-grade. All can be hard, but visually, and it goes down to aesthetics, right? What do people think is pretty? Well, the prettier stuff is going to get more money.
That's right. That's a good point. And Feroza there on Facebook said that too. She said, too much matrix for me. And it's
That's
That's your
Feroza for
opinion.
sure. She likes her Persian turquoise. The classic Persian from back in the day was the robin's egg blue that we've all heard about.
Mm-hmm.
No matrix, clear blue. Thing is, most Persian turquoise, let's see, where's my Persian? You know, I really should have brought one more tray. I don't think I have any of the Persian. Oh, this. So this is. Where are we at? Okay, so this here, these 6 stones, that is Persian turquoise. That is from Nashburi, Iran, ancient Persia. There's a lot of matrix there.
Yep.
Okay? You had to grind through a lot of matrix sometimes to get down to that robin's egg blue. Mm-hmm. So Persian jewelry, typically 18 karat gold, is just beautiful blue. And yeah, like Carol said, Persian turquoise drool. Well, yeah, it's gorgeous. A lot of it has matrix though, and as soon as the Persians found out that we in America like matrix, boom! All of a sudden there was Persian turquoise over here. They found a market for it.
Yeah.
But some people like matrix, some people don't like matrix. The Sleeping Beauty is known for it being clear blue. But nowadays you hear a lot of people say, oh, I don't like that because it looks like fake, it looks plastic, because there's so much fake plastic on the market, and they are not familiar enough with the turquoise, the natural Sleeping Beauty, to be able to discern the difference, or they don't know the right dealer. So matrix, no matrix, personal choice. Green, blue, personal choice. Whatever trips your trigger.
Larry's asking, what backing do you use on your turquoise?
The backing that I use is a DevCon product. DevCon makes a whole bunch of different kinds of two-part epoxies. Mine is called liquid plastic steel, and I use the dark gray. And there are 2 strengths. I use the 2,500 pound PSI. It's you literally mix the 2 parts epoxy together, you put it under the stone, and after a curing process, it is really hard without all that weight. So DevCon brand, liquid plastic steel. I get it at the Jeweler Supply now, but you can also get it at True Value Hardware. You go in there and they've got a whole rack of like 20 different kinds of 2-part epoxies by the DevCon brand, liquid plastic steel being one of them. It's great. It's amazing stuff.
Bob's asking, how do you determine the true carats of turquoise if it's backed? It's hard.
It's near impossible. And the thing is, if it's a thin piece of turquoise and it's got backing, well, you couldn't set it if it didn't have the backing. So that goes back to what I was saying earlier about factoring in the pricing. If I have the same grade, 2 pieces of turquoise, the same grade, visually speaking, from the top they're identical, but one is really thin with a lot of backing, one is thicker turquoise, I will sell the thicker turquoise piece for more dollars per carat because of the backing factor on the other one. Mm-hmm. I have to prorate it, and it's subjective, folks. It's me thinking in terms of, well, what's this worth today? What's it worth tomorrow? So once it's set in jewelry, you have no way of knowing because it's under the bezel. There is no way to tell. So when you're buying the turquoise, with backing, without backing, you have to take that in consideration. Not everybody puts as much thought into it as I might, but then again, it's just know who you're dealing with.
The theme of the day, you're going back to that.
Brought down the price, but you're right.
Having more backing does bring the price. That's what I'm saying. The
okay.
thinner turquoise with a lot of backing, I will not charge as much per carat
okay.
as I will for a thicker piece with minimal backing, because there is more turquoise there, and I'm very conscious of that. But like I said, you can't use the thin stuff sometimes without the backing, so it's just part of the game, folks.
Gosh.
Do you have any Bisbee here today?
I have some Bisbee right here. This is some Bisbee. Okay. It's not super high grade, but it is Bisbee.
One of the things that we were talking about earlier, Catherine, is you get such a variety of looks from different mines. Here is a Bisbee right here. I've got one upstairs that's really deep blue. Maybe I'll grab that real quick.
The high grade, there is nothing like smoky Bisbee, the high grade Bisbee, and that is one of the more expensive turquoises also because the collectability factor. There's so little of it available on the market today. Everybody wants it. It is so beautiful, and it's got this beautiful reddish brown matrix that's very unique too. It's called the glance conglomerate. It's the name of the host rock. Like we have rhyolite for the Cerritos and Royston, the glance conglomerate was the host rock for the Bisbee mine. And here's an interesting little tidbit for y'all. Bisbee turquoise was never mined as turquoise. 1953, the I'm not sure if it's Phelps Dodge at that time or whatever the big copper
Yeah,
mine was.
Phelps Dodge.
They literally pushed that oxidation layer that has the turquoise. They just shoved it aside to get down to the sulfide layer where there's more copper.
Yeah.
It had no value to them. So all of the Bisbee turquoise on the market today came from the dumps.
Wow.
Oh,
Every bit of it.
goodness.
I had a relative that was part of the mines,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess they used to fill up their lunch boxes.
Oh,
Sounds like
classic.
it's like if
And
you
they
see a
filled their
cool
lunchbox
rock.
and go home
Lunchbox
and- yeah.
rock. There have been some great stashes that come out of Lunchbox rock. What that is, folks. The miners, the copper miners, they're in the mines, and they've at some point became aware of the fact that this turquoise has value, and they're getting paid their hourly wage. But they will go ahead and grab some turquoise, put it in their lunchbox, and then they walk out at the end of the day with their lunchbox and there's turquoise in there. The mines didn't like that because they're taking time away from their copper mining.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's-
some mines were more lenient than others, but basically it boiled down to the miners were quote unquote stealing rock from the mine,
Yeah,
stealing the time, right, Marcus, stealing the time. But lunchbox rock is classic in American turquoise.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. It's a great term.
That old story reminds me of kind of what happened with Sleeping Beauty with the
Yeah.
copper mines, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, I heard it was cheaper or more effective for the copper mine to just shut off turquoise mining and just go for the copper and
Well, that's very true. Here's a little tidbit about Sleeping Beauty that I learned from the miners at that Sleeping Beauty
Okay.
store. Okay.
yeah.
So the Sleeping Beauty, where the turquoise came from, was on the edge of a huge copper pit. So the copper had been mined, and in 1961 they started mining the turquoise, but not in conjunction with the copper. So the Sleeping Beauty mine was truly a turquoise mine on the border of a large copper mine. And the reason it played out back in '06 is they got to the point where they were moving so much overburden to get so little low-grade turquoise that they shut the mine down. So Sleeping Beauty is gone. The stuff that I've got here, this nice hard clinky stuff, can't find it. Morenci is a classic example of what you're talking about.
Okay,
Shaq.
maybe I had those.
The Morenci mine produced amazing turquoise. Lots of lunchbox rock. Beautiful turquoise, different. It's a huge copper mine, like 3 miles long, a mile deep or half mile deep. So a lot of different looks came out of Morenci, but pyrite is a main indicator for Morenci turquoise. If you see Morenci, you often see the pyrite in it. Well, back in the day, they had turquoise subcontractors that would come in. They'd find a pocket of turquoise and say, hey, give the guys a call, come over and get the turquoise. So these guys would come in and get the turquoise, mine it out of this whatever area. Thing is, as the copper mines got bigger and the trucks got bigger, all of a sudden the turquoise miners in their pickup trucks were getting in the way of these big the dump trucks with the 20-foot tires, and they literally cut off all the turquoise mining. And as a result, there's been a lot of turquoise, folks. It's so sad. A lot of turquoise was crushed 24/7 at Morenci and other mines for copper, purely for the copper production, giving zero value to the turquoise, which ultimately is more valuable than the copper porphyry, but to the big Phelps Dodge and the other big mining
Yeah, it wasn't their
companies,
business.
it's bottom line is the dollar, and the turquoise was getting in the way.
Wow.
Sad but true.
How you feeling about time?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
we're
we
an
can keep
hour,
going.
18 minutes.
We're going for a record here, folks.
Yeah.
Do you want to do some close-ups and just show off some? cool
Sure.
turquoise?
Someone was asking for if you have any Royston, if you could show some of the range and some of the bit higher grade stuff that you have.
This whole tray is Royston.
Whoa.
There's some really, really fine turquoise in here. Starting at the bottom, you get greens, you got blues, you've got mostly that rhyolite color, that golden brown matrix. But this is like I said, my personal stash. This is all really nice, beautiful Royston.
And the color variations too.
The
like
variation,
light
yeah,
blue.
all from the same mining district. But this is classic Royston. I've actually got some material that I got from the miners a couple of years ago from the Montezuma mine that it does take it a notch or two higher. One miner had it and his cousin's jaw dropped when he saw it because they didn't know they'd been mining that area. And I was in the right place at the right time. I bought everything they had. So I do have higher grade Royston, but this is what most people consider Royston. High grade, beautiful, luscious, hard silicified Royston turquoise right there.
There you go, Leslie.
And going back to, if you missed it before, so that's Royston. This is all Cereos. This is from, where I go mining.
Yeah. And see, to me, this looks more like the Royston we see. So,
There's the glass.
I don't know any of the turquoise now.
And this goes back to the fact, there we go, that it's from the same type of host rock. So there's a lot of overlap of looks from mine to mine, and there's a lot of variation of looks within the same mine. But this is Cereos, this is Royston. If you put the two together, if you didn't know which was which, you couldn't tell. You just couldn't tell. Provenance, folks. Goes back to provenance.
I like that piece of band Cereos you have in that tray.
The piece of ribbon turquoise there.
In the Cereos one, there's a...
Oh.
that one, no, exactly, yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
super
classic ribbon or boulder turquoise. It says, and what that is, folks, ribbon turquoise is a creative way to use thinner, weirder shaped pieces of turquoise or seams of turquoise. If you can't cut it horizontally, get a nice thick piece of turquoise, you got a little thin piece, like the piece I showed earlier, the Cereos, where, once I get that cut down, that's a ribbon of green turquoise running through the rhyolite, ribbon or boulder. So it's a creative way to utilize small amounts of turquoise by using the host rock to enlarge the size of the cabochon in creating this unique look that we have come to really appreciate these days. Because the mines are playing out. Got to use every last little bit.
There's only a finite amount of it.
Only a finite amount. Mother Nature did not make any more. One person was talking about the Sleeping Beauty, and she goes, "What? It want more form?" Not in our lifetime, my friend. Not in our lifetime. Most of the turquoise in the American Southwest formed 55 to 70 million years ago. Cereos is some of the younger turquoise because the Cereos hills are about 25 to 30 million years old. Still ancient, but it's all relative. Turquoise is from days gone by. And we're just lucky to live in a time when we didn't have another glacier or ice age come along and scrape all the turquoise off, and a million years from now we may not have turquoise anymore.
It's so high to the crust layer, is what you're saying?
But we're lucky to be in the particular time we're living where we can appreciate the turquoise.
We've had a question. Oh, okay, so I've got to ask you this.
Yes.
Water web turquoise.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear that term before 2007?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, watermark or water web turquoise is a specific kind of spiderweb turquoise, and it refers to the fact that within each nodule there's the blue, then there's usually a ring of white before the dark ring of the outer part of the nodule. So it's like there's two layers there. I don't think I have any right now.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful look. But yeah, I'd heard the term long before 2007.
Because I wrote a blog in 2007, and I just made that term up, and I threw it online, and all of a sudden I started hearing it everywhere.
Oh!
And I was like, everyone's using my term.
Now we know. An expert.
Microweb and what's the other one? Metal web. What about seafoam? What is seafoam turquoise?
Seafoam turquoise, unique thing. The story on this one goes, so there was a guy in the turquoise business named Bing Crosby, not the singer.
I was like,
Not the singer.
yeah, I was throwing back.
He and this guy were in, supposedly the story goes, in a bar in Gallup or a restaurant talking about this type of turquoise, botryoidal or seafoam turquoise. Botryoidal means grape-like, like a cluster of grapes. So turquoise is one of a few minerals that will form this grape-like cluster structure. And here in the Sleeping Beauty, I've got, it's small, but basically what it refers to is where the turquoise, instead of forming in seams, in the cracks and crevices, typically seafoam turquoise formed more in a clay-like environment where it's softer.
Okay.
And these little botryoidal nuggets, or seafoam, it came with the name seafoam, and it stuck, Bing Crosby, not the singer. When you pull a piece of seafoam out of the clay, you see the negative impression, the mirror image in the clay still.
Yeah.
So it's definitely turquoise. It is a rare form of turquoise. Not all mines produced it, but a lot of mines that did have the seam and the botryoidal mixed in. Sometimes you'll see a piece of seam with a botryoidal chunk sticking up because how it formed, it had this space to grow that nuggety form.
Yep.
It's nuggets of turquoise.
Is it usually gem quality? Can it turn to gem quality?
It can be from the softest chalk to the hardest gem.
Really? Okay. Because I assume with like being around clay, that would
Remember,
be like.
we had that
softer.
necklace the other day. That was like $13,000.
Oh, wait, I saw it.
No, you didn't see it?
Oh
It
my
was-
gosh.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
Fossilized turquoise.
Oh, fossilized. That's a neat thing.
That sounds cool.
That is primarily thought of as coming from the Lone Mountain mine near Tonopah, Nevada. What fossil turquoise is, and it's neat because it's got natural holes. It's like natural beads. The way I think in terms of it's more like nature plating, because there was something there, and the turquoise formed like electroplating in a way. It formed around this organic substance, and then that organic substance disappeared, so you got the hole. So it is not a fossil. Well, I'll talk about the clams in a second.
Yeah.
But fossilized turquoise, when you hear that term, it's usually about the Lone Mountain material that has the natural holes, and you get these amazing necklaces. Likewise, or similarly, in northern Nevada, in the Damali mine, the Caraco Lake, some of those northern mines, there are actually turquoise clams. And that is a fossil replacement where the turquoise has replaced the fossil. So it's called a pseudomorph. That term pseudomorph means when one mineral replaces another. In this case, there was the clam fossil. It deteriorated bit by bit. The turquoise formed in and around it. Another cool pseudomorph for turquoise are apatite crystals out of Mexico. You will see a hexagonal crystal of turquoise. Okay, turquoise is in the hexagonal crystalline form. There is one place in the world, folks, where turquoise formed crystals.
Wow.
They are microscopic. You need a 10-power loop to see them. And of all places, Lynch Station, Virginia, which does not have a low water table nor an arid region. It's
Bizarre.
super rare.
Yeah.
But it is the place where it was found that turquoise is in the hexagonal crystalline family. If you look at turquoise under 100 power mag, you can see it is cryptocrystalline. That term means made up of zillions of little crystals all integrated, like agate. Agate is cryptocrystalline. Jasper, which is also a silicate, same chemical composition, is not cryptocrystalline. It is mass. But with turquoise, it is actually cryptocrystalline. And in Lynch Station, Virginia, these amazing little turquoise crystals formed.
Oh my goodness.
They're super rare.
Gosh, that's so cool.
I got a whole nother page. We might have to do round 2 someday.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Folks, I appreciate y'all hanging in with us. We've been having a ball here for the last hour, 23 minutes. I'd like to thank Marco and Shep for hosting me and
Yeah, thank you for
providing
coming.
this platform for us to talk about the turquoise. Thanks for all the questions. This has been really fun. And like I said, if you have any more, you can get a hold of me through my contact information on my Facebook page. It's all there on the profile thing. But,
That's right.
In the meantime, talk to these guys.
Yeah, that's right. Join our inner circle. Marco just put the link in the description below. We're going to give a shout out to Dayton there. And we will also be answering questions all week or anytime you want, really, about anything that you've seen on the show today. Come join us. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. Come join us 4 to 5 nights a week here at Turquoise Skies. We are a jewelry store here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We're on the outskirts of Uptown at 8106 Manal. If you have any questions, you can give us a call here at the shop, 505-862-9443. You can reach us at T.Skies.com. Email us, hello@T.Skies.com. We're here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then we have special guests on Wednesday. So come join us, and we'll be around all week, all the time. So anyway, you've just had a great talk. I've had a great time with
Me
It's been
too.
super fun.
This has been super fun.
and we honestly, I made it through like half a page of questions, and we could keep going. But
Fascinating subject.
yeah,
yes.
we could talk all night. Honestly, we'd be here till like 10:30 if we really let ourselves. But we're
Get our whiskey, you know.
yeah, we'll keep going.
With the tequila.
But we'll stay in touch.
Yes,
And
yes.
let us know if you need to get a hold of Dayton. He also does jewelry repair. There's a whole section on here that we're going to talk about jewelry. We didn't quite get there.
I do all things turquoise from right out of the ground do finished jewelry, including repair, making it, selling it. I do it all. It's lots of fun.
And you have some cool stuff that's not even turquoise up here, and I'm just like,
Yeah, Mark, I got into the
Oh,
azurite malachite.
I'll
Oh
try to post a
boy.
picture to the inner circle, my favorite pieces.
Yeah, we'll stay in touch, folks. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dayton, for coming today. Thank you so much. We'll stay in touch. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night. We'll see you
Later.
next time.